Kyle here from allmediareviews.blogspot.com. I'm going to try to do, in probably a pretty lengthy video, I would guess 25 to 30 minutes, we'll see, the Prog Vinyl 2021 exercise. And I'll preface to say, a lot of my picks aren't necessarily prog what people think about, and I didn't want to pick cliches, and I picked a couple of items from certain questions, and I also picked a couple artists multiple times, so let's just begin. So the first question is, what is the album that got you into prog? Well, so I chose actually two albums. I guess this would be technically in order. So the Led Zeppelin's Houses of the Holy, I got into when I first was introduced to Led Zeppelin and classic rock in general, and there are songs like Song Remains the Same, and especially No Quarter, which are very progressive. This is what led me into getting into progressive rock. Yeah, I'm not going to show it all for restrictive reasons. You know, of course, the artwork people have issues with. But yeah, it's a great record. Vertigo label, Gentle Giant's Octopus is the album that I found. One of the albums I found. So yeah. You know, great record for the most part. I'm not a huge Gentle Giant fan, but yeah, I mean, I like it. It's, some people consider it their favorite Gentle Giant record. So let's see here. This is just, I don't know if this isn't the first press or anything like that, but you know, this version's off of Columbia, but it was released on Vertigo. It's listed at least on Wikipedia, so. And then Rush, a bunch of Rush's records came out on Vertigo, and I just chose one. Hold Your Fire, let's say Force 10. Hold Your Fire was on the Vertigo label, so. Rush, as I just was talking about with Chronicles, you know, I got into progressive rock and I just became a huge fan. So there was a few other records on there listed. I love just looking on Wikipedia, Power Windows, I think, and I can't remember. But anyway, Jade Warrior maybe for another day, you know. All right, the next question. Show an album with epic keyboards. Well, I'm not going to go with the cliche, and I chose two records, actually. The first one, well, I'll go in chronological order, I guess. The first one is my favorite Dream Theater album, the last one with Kevin Moore, Awake. I don't want to, you know, the word epic can be defined as many things, but especially just look at Space Divest, what he did with Space Divest, even moments of like, that were used on The Mirror and Lie, I want to say, that sort of haunting sort of motif, you know, and I consider that as epic as any keyboard's ever done in any album, even though this is a very guitar-based album too, and a very metal album. The keyboards are phenomenal on this record, despite the fact that when Kevin Moore was, you know, at least performing it, recording it with the band, maybe his motivations weren't fully what they would be. I don't know. I know he was definitely looking toward the future, but you know, he wanted to at least write the music that came out on Awake in 1994. And I love the keyboards. The cloudy synths on Space Divest are some of the best synthesizer, the piano use on that. So the other record I chose for this is not, I don't know if it would be largely keyboard based, but it's the Elysium album, the album from Velveteen, Elysium rather. The interesting thing about this and why I chose this record, I don't know if I've ever shown it. It came out in 2004, and this is a 10-inch, a double 10-inch, which is really unusual. It doesn't have any guitar. It's all piano, bass, and drums, I believe, and vocals. But the use of keyboards, and I think piano and some keys, make this record totally epic. Yeah, Velveteen. I mean, Velveteen have a bunch of records. A lot of their sound, some of their sound is kind of Radiohead-like. The first record, The Fierce Parade, I believe. I could do a whole video on them, but are they prog? You know, this is prog to me. I think the last track, the Camera Obscurant, is like 10 or 12 minutes. So, and the keyboards are a huge part of it. The keyboards and the piano. I'd say largely the piano, but I put that in the keyboard family. Are a huge part of that, you know, so Elysium from the Velveteen as epic keyboards. Alright, so next question being, show an Is This Prog album? Well, I could probably choose about 200-300 records. Vinyl, I could probably choose 50, 60, 70 of them, but I just chose one just out of the top of my head. The one full-length album I have from Small League Sing Ships called The Golden Calf from 2017. Why might people think is it prog? Because it's kind of quirky and, you know, college post-rock, you know, but there's enough experimentation in it that it has the prog ethos. They're listed as a progressive rock band among other styles. I mean, they're a rock band that does a lot of quirky things, you know, and they have vocals that they have multiple vocalists, and they use a lot of piano, and they use, you know, some odd, quirky, like on this album and then the EP that followed it, a lot of like sort of electronic textures. But so it's prog in my mind. It's just, people want to call it indie or college or alternative rock, fine. You know, it's not your run of the mill. This is not Spoon. This is not. I don't know if I've. Yeah, I think I did show it. It's a clear vinyl. I have clear with a bunch of splatter, but Small League Sing Ships. You know, completely under the radar band. Even under in the obscure music fan base in Prague, they have a fan following though. So I love their previous record even more, but it never came out on vinyl, so I didn't show it. I would have probably chose that one, the one from 2015, the last perfect record that in my mind has ever been released. So that I've heard at least. So all right, next question: show a prog album from an artist or band out of Germany. Well, I probably do, but I don't have anything specific that I... Like Nectar, I know Dave Richardson ended up, from Fairly Secret Music, ended up showing... I think he did. One of the people in this contest showed Nectar. I didn't even see any Nectar. I have some Nectar, but I just decided to go with one of my favorite records from a band from Germany. I don't have it on vinyl at this point. I don't know if it's been issued, but they have some other ones on vinyl. But Long Distance Callings of Void the Light, so I have it on CD. Like I said, I'm showing CDs. This is progressive post-metal, or you want to call it. There's one track that has vocals, but it doesn't sound like Explosions in the Sky. It doesn't sound like exactly like Russian Circles or ISIS or what's the other, like a lot of the quote-unquote post-metal. It's very much, it sounds like an instrumental prog album, not with keyboards, but you know, a lot of textures, some samples. It flows really well. The dynamics are really good. This kind of came out of nowhere. A friend of mine, that drummer guy, Josh, loves this album probably more than I do, and I was actually the one who introduced it to him. So this album, Void the Light, came out in 2009. It was their second album from Germany's based Long Distance Calling. So, I mean, yeah, Kron, there's a Necrophagist, but they're not prog. At least this is related. Necrophagist is tech death, you know, so... let's see here. So, the next question being, show a prog album from an artist or band out of the UK. So again, I could choose, you know, dozens, but I chose to choose one of my favorite bands from the UK and one of my favorite records, The Dark Third from Pure Reason Revolution, which I don't know if they did get reissued on vinyl, but, you know, their debut album from 2006. You know, so I want to show the record itself. People haven't been doing so much that. You know, of course, this version does on the side D include Trembling Willows, Twinson Trembling Willows, which is a key, and also this whole record's almost perfect. But there were 2 or 3 different track lists, because this one has Nimbos and Tambos, and it does not have. It has the Intention Craft, but there's a couple tracks they recorded around this time it doesn't include, unfortunately. But I have a CD version that has like the deluxe edition. I have like 4 versions of this. I did a video on Pure Reason Revolution a number of years ago when I first started on YouTube, which is in 2014. But heavyweight vinyl. I would like to get their newest album came out last year in 2020, Eupnia. I'd like to get their second and third records at some point on vinyl as well. But Pure Reason Revolution, you know, a prog band or an album from a band from in the UK. And look at the artwork on this. Yeah, very Pink Floyd-y, there's a Zeppelin influence, you know. And again, they're a band that, you know, 100% prog. Do they sound exactly like Yes or Genesis? No. But that's why I like them. They have influence, potentially. Pink Floyd especially, but Pure Reason Revolution, The Dark Third. I'm a huge fan of this album. I've been a fan really since the band, since the end of 2005. And I'm glad they're back together. So, alright, next question. Show an album from an artist or band from North America. Well, I'm going to show this band a couple times, but I chose Dredge's album, El Cielo. They're from Los Gatos, California, you know, North America. I don't have... South America, I'm kind of struggling. I could go the CD route, but this is their second album, Dredge, a concept album about, among other things, sleep paralysis, unfortunately. And if you watch Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind and you listen to this at the beginning to whatever for the first hour or whatever this album is, bunch of weird stuff happens. It syncs up and everything. So, anyway, LCL. This is one of my 10 favorite albums ever, from a band that I love. One of my 10 favorite bands ever. So go figure. I don't want that sticking out like that. So yeah, they're from Los Gatos, California. All right. So next question. Show a prog gateway album, one you would introduce to someone new to the genre. Well, again, I'm being kind of loose with my prog definitions and stuff, but I chose A Night at the Opera. This is I think one of the reissues from like 2015 or 20. Oops, I don't want that doing that. Is it a gatefold? I think it is. Why I chose this is well, obviously there's a lot of songs, including Bohemian Rhapsody, that have been on the radio, so someone at least might be familiar with it. But it does have the Prophet song, which in most people's takes is prog. Bohemian Rhapsody also is prog. And I would argue even there's prog elements to I'm in Love with My Car and what's the other one? Most of these songs have like prog elements and sort of a sweet Death on Two Legs, you know. They use some odd time signatures, a lot of dynamics, you know. The use of vocal layering is very progressive, not just on Bohemian Rhapsody, by the way. Prophet song especially. And it's my favorite song, but I think if you've never listened to prog and you're not sure you'd like it, but you maybe are familiar with like We Will Rock You, and you might know Bohemian Rhapsody, then you could listen to more of this. And then you'd go back and listen to more Queen and then find some other bands that are doing even more things like Yes and Genesis or, you know, you name it. But this would be as accessible of an album for me, for someone who doesn't like prog or never heard prog, to listen to first. So Bohemian, but Night at the Opera from Queen. All right, next question. Show an album with Bill Bruford on drums. Even better if you can show from multiple decades and multiple bands. Well, unfortunately, I thought I did, but I did not grab multiple decades. I don't know if I've got any vinyl from multiple decades from him. I don't know. But I got 2 records from 2 different periods of time at least. So I chose Large Tongue Aspect. Kind of predictable from people are going to choose either a Yes or a King Crimson record from him, but I kind of think this is the most underrated of the 3, although Starless and Bible Black I suppose is even more, but I kind of lean toward this. I love Red. If I had to choose one of the 3 Bruford 70s albums, I probably would go with Red. I don't think I have Discipline, but anyway. So the other Bruford record I chose, I want to screw this up, is the Bruford Tapes, which is a live album, which I thought came out in like early 80s, but it was actually 79. It has Hell's Bells. When I was on KFAI radio, my friend played Hell's Bells, I believe. But yeah, this is his band with Dave Stewart, Jeff Berlin, and John Clark. It's a great live album. It was recorded July 12th, 1979, so I think some of Bill Bruford's best work is his live stuff, actually. So the Bruford Tapes from 1979. So let's see here, 1979. The next question being, show a concept album. All right, so this is kind of the mother of some of my vinyl. This is one of my most cherished possessions. This is a very first initial pressing of The Deer Hunter, DEAR, Color Spectrum, which I got signed by some of the members, I think including Casey, I'm not sure. And this is a concept album about the color spectrum, go figure, or it's a bunch of EPs, and you can see they're all colored vinyl. I'm not, I showed it, I did the Deer Hunter vinyl video. I could probably go for an update a few years back. I could go for an update of showing all the Deer Hunter CDs. It's a lot though, maybe do multiple videos with that, but I'll do a 2-parter. But yeah, so there's 9 EPs. All on vinyl. It's a big concept. It was released on CD in a box set also, and then of course a compilation, and then individually and digitally. So you look at the back there, the different colors of the color spectrum, go figure. But it's tremendous. This is they did reissue it. I don't know if you can still get it, but I don't know. I'm not looking for monetary value, but if I go with my favorite, it'd be Indigo. That song, Mandala, I love that. It's one of my favorite songs Casey Crescenzo's ever written and been involved with. So, but yeah, if you've never heard The Deer Hunter, you could listen to the Axe albums, but this also is a more interesting. In some ways, this is almost more progressive in a sense. It's really thinking outside the box. The styles that he explored on everyone. I mean, black is like kind of darker, almost industrial. You know, blue is like post-rock. Violet is sort of like the Axe sort of theatrical. A lot of the Axe sound. White is sort of happy and very kind of, you know, I would say uplifting. Orange and yellow, I think is the one that's sort of power poppy. Orange is sort of very acoustic. Red is sort of, you know, a little darker. Some darker guitar textures in that. Green is what you'd figure, sort of more acoustic also. I can't remember if green and yellow or green and the crossover in some of the sounds, but I mean, I know that you really, some of them sort of blur, but most of them do not. So he definitely achieved the accomplishment of basically getting varied, almost 9 different varied styles in this color spectrum record release, box set, compilation, whatever you want to call it. So that's my concept album for the Questionnaire for the ProgVinyl 2021. So next question, show a female prog artist or band with a female lead. Kimbra's Vows. Again, you want to argue with me she's not prog? I'll argue with you she is prog. She's influenced by prog. She uses a lot of odd rhythms, a lot of odd vocal arrangements in this. Well, it's poppy, a lot of jazz influence. I don't really give her, I don't care what anyone else thinks. This to me is prog enough for me. And some of her other records maybe are even more prog. My favorites, unfortunately this version isn't the 2011, this is the 2012 version. I've always wanted to get the 2011 version. But Cameo Lover, Settle Down, Two-Way Street are bangers. Good Intent also. Then The Build Up and Home. Sally, Can I See You? You know, it's almost a perfect record. This is from 2011, or this is the 2012 version, but it originally was released Kimbra's Vows in 2011. So let's see here. Next album. Show a prog solo album. Someone who was in a prog band and released a solo record. Well, real big shocker here. Kevin Gilbert's Thud. Of course, he was in Giraffe, which was a prog band. He was in Toy Matinee, which arguably was prog enough. Prog pop. Progressive pop. This is his initial solo record. Of course, he's released other things as a solo artist posthumously, but this is the only solo record he released officially while he was still alive. But yeah, it's a classic record. A lot of it's singer-songwriter. A lot of it is very experimental, but still not being overly layered. I hate to pick favorites on this record, but and of course there's a bonus disc on this. This is what I came with. It came with the actual box set CD, but I kind of go towards Shadow Self because that's the most proggy of all the tracks on here. But Goodness Gracious, Joytown lyrically is amazing. Shrug, you know, of course this includes, I don't know, the side D. Yeah, this has Kashmir on it. His Kashmir version of Led Zeppelin's Kashmir. So anyway, Kevin Gilbert, my favorite musician of all time. You know, go figure. So what's the next question? Show your favorite Roger Dean cover artwork or show a favorite prog cover. So I got two, well, it's not called prog, but okay, so one is kind of obvious. It's Tales from Topographic Oceans. My version, though, has track breaks for DJs. This is a rare version of Tales from Topographic Oceans. I think I have another standard version. But yeah, the artwork itself is you know, classic. It's, you know, iconic, you know. So yeah, it's the landscapes and stuff like the Roger Dean trademark. You know, with the track break sheet, it doesn't cover it up. I have another one just to admire the artwork. I think I have another one in my collection just to look at the artwork. Of course, I have the CD as well. And then the other one I'm choosing as a second choice, because this is my favorite artwork of all time, is Billy Cobham, George Duke's live in tour in Europe from 1975, I think it was, 76. I even got the late George Duke to sign it, and Billy. So yeah, look at the heads, severed head, you know, the severed heads or whatever, isolated with the hands, and you know it speaks enough for itself. So, all right, next question. Show a live prog album. Well, that's not going to be what my choice was. I thought that 1971 was the next question. Yeah, 1971 actually was the next question. Show an album from 1971. Genesis is Nursery Crime. I'm not going to go and... I can't say any more than I said. My favorite song on here is probably Fountain of Matches. Fountain of Matches and the Musical Box, of course. It's a classic Gabriel, one of the 4 or 5, whatever it is, 5 classic Gabriel records that are almost all equal to me. And it's iconic artwork and everything, so Nursery Crime, go figure. I mean, there's a lot of other records from '71 I could have picked. It seems all cliches among the prog community, so I didn't. And I had to actually obviously own a copy, which some of them I don't own copies of on vinyl. Show a live prog album. So I chose 2 of them as a second choice. I chose Marillion, my favorite band, their Thieving Magpie. Now, they've got other live albums. I don't have them on vinyl at this point, I don't think. You know, I'd probably go with, what is it, Made Again. But this is, they do all of Misplaced Childhood on this. I think. Although, this is interesting because the back only shows just part 1 and then some other stuff. I thought this, well, the CD version I have has all of, has the entire Misplaced Childhood, but this version may not, which, because I think it's just a single disc. That's the reason why. Well, I don't know if there was a double disc of the theme, because I have the CD, which has the whole thing, but this has Jigsaw, Punch and Judy, Sugar Mice, Fugate. So this is like a compilation, actually. Strip for Jester, Steering, Commando, and White Rush. Some of the Clutching at Straws stuff is actually on here, the Thieving Magpie, but, you know, I need to, and, oh, it's got, yeah, this is basically from the Clutching at Straws tour. Because I have a version of Misplaced Childhood. Pretty sure it's from this. I should know this since I'm a Marillion-aholic and my favorite band, but anyway, great artwork, still a great record of the Fish period, and actually if I chose one Fish album, it still goes down to Clutching. And I also chose one of my favorite live albums of all time, Dredge's, actually I showed it in a video a little while ago, live at the Fillmore, which came out in 2006, finally on vinyl in the last few months, from the LCL period, you know. Love Dredge, they're a great live band. It's got a couple songs that didn't make on the album, Catch Without Arms, Stone by Stone, and The Warbler. But yeah, it's an epic record. It covers a lot of their first 3 records. So, all right. So let's see here. Show the last prog album you purchased or were gifted. Well, this is not the most recent, but very close to the most recent prog album I purchased, and that's Dirt Poor Robin's Dead Horse album that came out. Officially came out as a full album in 2020, but the vinyl finally came out a couple months ago. Great record, very thematic, very story, very theatrical. A lot of themes and motifs, very strong vocals, you know, very vaudevillian and very kind of ragtimey at times, very retro sounding. But it's the concept also is a big deal. Why I bought it on vinyl. So, and it's prog. Don't even question that. Show a prog album released within the last 25 years. I went with Transatlantic, Bridge Across Forever. This is probably my favorite traditional sounding prog rock album that's retro prog rock. And I've loved this album from the point I heard it. It's the best Transatlantic album to me. It's really the last good one to me. People say that's sacrilege, but Stranger in Your Soul is an absolute masterpiece track. And Duel with Adele is pretty close behind. Sweet Charlotte Pike, I love the Abbey Road element to that. And the title track is a great ballad. This actually could have gone under the 4-track question too, 4 or less songs. But yeah, Transatlantic, we're at the height of their powers when they released this. I wish they would have written and recorded another album right after this. I think their ideas and musical writing and compositions were at their best. But, you know, what can you do? Who knows? It might have sounded like Testimony, and then I would be eating my words here, because I'm not huge into Testimony, largely because of the Christian lyrics. I'm Jewish, and the lyrics kind of got to me, unfortunately. But if you love them, you love them. I more power to you. Show a prog album with an incredible guitar solo. Well, so I had to find a way to sneak this in here again. Marillion shows up for the second time. Brave, I specifically hint toward The Great Escape, which is it's a total goosebump song, total like tears, fetal position track. I mean, this is my favorite album of all time, so you know. But I don't listen to it very much because I just get too emotional. But the guitar solo is my favorite guitar solo that Steve Rother has ever had. And I would argue the greatest guitar solo of any prog album ever. But that's just my opinion. From the greatest concept album, or most moving, kind of melancholy, sad concept album ever. So, Brave from 1994, the song would be The Great Escape from Marillion and Steve Rothery. So the last question, last but not least, what prog album is at the top of your want list? So, I got 2 answers for this one also. Yeah. And it's coming, supposedly, finally. A long wait. This is not the vinyl. This is basically the case of what would have probably been the vinyl when it was going to try to come out in 2012. But it's finally coming out. This is the CD, the deluxe expanded CD version, which I'm not going to take the CDs out, but Kevin Gilbert's The Shaming of the True should be in every library on the planet. Should be in should be taught in music school and in Hollywood, and there's not much more I can say. Kevin Gilbert's was a genius. Even though it would have probably come out differently had he been around and been alive when it actually got finished and released. But Nick DiVirgilio, thankfully, and John Coonerberti and some other people really worked on it to get it released finally in the year 2000. The Shaming of the True. Finally, hopefully, the end of 2021, we're going to see it. And I'll have to talk about it, and I'll do a whole Shaming of the True probably video. So I want to add one more to that. So that one is coming out on vinyl, and I want that. That's my second favorite album. My third favorite album of all time. So I've got Brave is my favorite. I'm wearing the t-shirt, Apes and Androids, Blood Moon. I don't think it ever will come out on vinyl because they're not a band anymore right now. They're not active. It's a totally, highly, uber obscure album that only certain people know. But people that did find it, loved it. Most people do. And this would be an absolute breathtaking masterpiece work to see come out on like a double gatefold record. This basically completely changed my world in 2008. I listened to it over and analyzed it. Brian Jacobs and David Tobias put everything they could, and I love their other music. Call Florence Powell stuff, the EP. But it's influenced a lot of my favorite music too, and Blood Moon would be my choice. And is it prog? It's progressive as hell. It's a concept album of sorts. There's a lot of elements of just textures and samples and different moods and motifs and tones and segues and climaxes and characterized vocals, and it's totally prog in that sense. Is it highly technical? No, it doesn't need to be. But there's so many good songs on here. I would Riverside, the guitar synth solo on it's like a guitar solo, very Queen-like. Hot Cathy, Hot Cathy, Golden Prize, Make Forever Last Forever. The flow of those songs together. We Don't Understand You, Radio. Johnny and Sarah is like a amazingly energetic post-punk song that just totally gets me every time. The guitar solo on that is great. So I could expand. I need to do a whole video on Apes and Androids / Colorful Inspire at some point soon, and I'll talk more about it. But for now, this would be my number one choice besides Shaming. Once Shaming of the True comes out, this would be my number one choice. Other stuff I'm looking for that I don't have. There's other stuff that I want. That I want to get the John Anderson Tangerine Dream collaboration on the soundtrack. I've been meaning to get to the John Anderson collaboration. He guests on the soundtrack that Tangerine Dream did for the movie Legend. I think it's out of print, and it's been hard to find. There's some other stuff that I'm not really thinking about, but there's not a lot. I've completed most my vinyl. I don't have a lot of the box sets and reissues and expanded editions. A lot of that stuff. If I had to choose one, it would be Marillion. I would want to have every. I guess the other answer to that question is I want to get every Marillion 45, especially the Fish period. And I have like 8 or 9 of them, including a lot of picture discs, but there's like 15 or more. That would be it, and have every Marillion record on vinyl. That would be the only other thing that I could, off the top of my head, in terms of priorities. But thank you for watching. Go ahead and subscribe and like this video, and hi vinyl community, hi prog rock vinyl community. Hope you found my channel. Hope you can still find my channel. I've been on YouTube since 2014. I've got over 200 videos to varying qualities, but just to let you know if you've never found my channel. But thank you for finding it, and I'll see you next time.